Welcome to Unhinged and Bumbled Up, where you can
join serial dater Phil,
that's me, and dating detoxer Liz,
that's me. Welcome to the world of online dating.
What can you expect in the Unhinged and Bumbled Up podcast?
Dating do's, don'ts and disasters.
What we and our guests would gladly chuck in the 2020 dating bin to be gone forever.
What real people really think about those tricky dating dilemmas.
Awesome dating trivia. You'll never know when it'll come in handy for that pub quiz.
Top tips and tricks from our awesome guest experts who luckily know a little more about dating than we do.
So if you've ever had a dating disaster,
ignore the red flags.
If you feel like your dating life is less successful than Dominic Cummings' excuses,
then you're in the right place. Do we know what we're talking about? No! Our dating lives are both utter shite. So join us as we talk all things dating. The good, the bad, and the sorry, there's just no spark.
Hello and welcome to the Unhinged and Bumbled Up podcast. This week will be a little bit different because it'll just be me and Liz talking about the episode which is named What the Actual Fuck is Baggage. This week, we will be talking about the difficulties people come across when dating as a single parent, dating single parents, and just everything around parenting. So, as always, I'm joined by Liz.
Hello.
Hey. Now, we're looking all right today. We're in... I'm in a vest top because of my tattoo, and Liz is looking amazing because of her eyelashes that she's just got done. Yay for things opening during lockdown.
Yeah, just literally had my eyelashes done. It is months and months overdue. It was so nice to just lay in a chair and get pampered for an hour, and I had a slightly accidental nap, and I think I woke myself up snoring, but the person doing the eyelashes was very diplomatic about it, so credit to her.
That's amazing. So we have both sides of the story here, I think, today, don't we? I have a child, and I've dated people without children, and I've dated people with children. Whereas Liz...
Yeah, I am childless. No, I don't have any children and also don't want any children. So I've been aware from quite a young age that I wasn't really interested in having children. Kind of assumed that at some point, some biological instinct would kick in, and then it just never did. And here I am, mid-30s, and yeah, pretty certain that I don't want kids. Not that I don't like kids. I adore other people's kids. I've got 7 nieces and nephews and apparently a very noisy cat today. So I've been around children a lot. Some of my closest friends have young children and I adore them. And I can absolutely see the draw of having children. I just don't want any.
And that is perfectly fine, because not everybody wants children. Not everybody needs children, and it's completely everybody's personal decision. But you have dated people with children, haven't you?
I have. I've dated people with children and people without children. Honestly, I don't really mind. Mm-hmm. The reason being, I don't know how to say this without sounding a bit shitty, but I very much enjoy being a part-time girlfriend. Like if I'm seeing somebody, I don't want to see them every day. I've got no interest in seeing them every day. I've got my own shit going on. Mm-hmm. I've got hobbies and interests and things I like to do. And I'm also a massive introvert and really like spending time on my own. Although the last year has been, a bit OTT on that front. So I'm perfectly happy to see somebody a couple of nights a week and then be apart for a couple of nights a week. And so when people have children, obviously maybe it would be different if I dated somebody who was the full-time carer for the child. Yeah. For example, if they had a child and the other parent had passed away or something like that. I guess that maybe would be different. But as it is, I'm happy to see somebody when they don't have a child and not when they do, and that's okay.
That is the great thing about dating someone who's a single parent, because you have so much free time. So
Phil, tell me about your experience. So you obviously have a little boy, mm-hmm. and tell me, how old was he when you became single?
He would have just been coming up to 2 years old. So he was very young.
Okay. Yeah, little one.
Yeah. Now, my situation is that of a lot of fathers, not all fathers, because some fathers are solo parents and some fathers have their children a lot more. But due to work and working away quite a lot, I see my little boy every other weekend and in the week when I'm not working away. So for me, I have quite a bit of time to date. So I mean, I've had issues and difficulties before with people not being understanding, but compared to people who are solo parents or have their children quite a lot of the time, I do have quite a lot of free time to date. And yeah, I think this is something we'll be coming into later with the whole introduction of people in your life to children and stuff like that, because it's based on a number of things. So yeah.
And how do you tend to manage it in terms of like when you tell somebody, or like when you mention that you've got a son? Obviously internet dating is maybe a bit different because you tend to be upfront about those kind of things. But I think with the topic of today's podcast being about baggage, children aren't the only things that can be seen as baggage. You know, I have a divorce in my back catalogue of lovely baggage type things. And one of the things I always kind of feel mixed about is, when do I mention that? Because I don't want to really like lead with it, but at the same time, I don't want somebody to get 5 dates in and be like, what? Fucking hell, you're married. You didn't think to mention that.
Yeah, I mean, with me, internet dating is straight away, like, it's on my profile, it's there. And that's one of the questions we actually got asked. We got asked whether should it be basically be clear on the dating profile that you have kids to avoid wasting time. And yes, 100%. If you have children, put it in there. Now, one of the things that really annoyed me about a specific dating app, Bumble, is they only have so many options. It's don't have kids, want kids. Don't have kids, don't want kids. Have children, want children. Have children, don't want children. Now me, I have a child, but I'm totally on the fence about if I have another child or not. It's about the person who I meet, and if they want children, I am totally fine with that. If they don't want children, I'm totally fine with that, because for me, I've got Rory. Like, more children, yeah, would add more love, but I'm fine with that. So yeah, that's why on my Bumble profile, it says at the bottom, I have a mini-me. Yeah. And that's the way that I put it on that, because you're basically cutting yourself out, because if you put yourself into that category and someone filters by that category, you're going to cut people out. Yeah. Now, on the other hand, sites like Hinge, they have 2 categories. So they've got the category on one side, whether you have children or not, and the category on the other side, whether you don't want children, you're open to children, or you definitely want children. So Hinge has done a good thing with that. But on the thing with divorce, obviously I've been married, and I kind of get it out there straight away. Like, not straight away. It's not like the first thing I go and say, hey, I've been married. You know, it's one of those things that if I get talking to somebody and it seems like it might progress into dating or something like that, before it gets too far, I like to go, right, I'm going to be honest, I've been married. And do you know what? In some cases, it's been great. They've been fine with it. Other cases, I get shot in the foot for it, because basically they turn around and go, oh, okay, I'm fine with that. Then a little bit longer, it turns into, oh, I can't handle the fact that you're married and you're going through separation. So
I think as well, the fact that you've got a little one kind of lends itself to having that conversation, because people can infer that if you have a child, you were in a very serious relationship with somebody, which may or may not have included a wedding. I think what is a little bit less easy to then get into situation is, obviously I don't have any children, so it feels a bit random to bring it up. Like, I don't bring up any of my other exes.
Yeah.
Not like, remember that guy that I was with for 5 years that like financially ruined me? No, like, I don't bring that up on a date.
No.
And so it feels arbitrary for me to bring up the ex that I was married to, because I've been divorced now for, I think it will be 11 years this year. So it's a fucking long time. Who's talking about stuff that happened 11 years ago, really?
When does that come to a point where you don't mention that? Because, I mean, the only thing it stops you doing is if you want to get married in the future and get married in a church. But I think they're very lenient about that nowadays. So divorce, I don't feel that stops you doing anything like that. So at what point did you go?
Yeah, and I feel like it's important to say it because it does feel like a weird thing for somebody to find out quite far down the line.
Yeah.
But it's just an odd thing to bring up. And because there's no natural vehicle for it, like, oh, I've got a little one, I'm in the process of separating from his mum or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a bit of an odder
very
conversation.
One.
I think as well, it must be really tricky for people who have something else major in their past as well. Like, I don't know, the tragic death of a parent or a sibling or
even a partner.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
Or incarceration, or have spent time in a mental health facility or something like that, which is fairly major, and you maybe feel like it's something that you would want to mention to somebody for full transparency. But also, how far down the road of getting to know each other do you get before you, and that's like big stuff to disclose. You don't want to tell like everyone that.
No.
Or put it on your dating profile.
Yeah, just been in prison. I mean, some guys seem to, from some of the profiles that I've got sent to, it's like, just been in prison, and it's like, no, don't put it on there.
Lead with that.
But yeah, no, I understand what you mean with that, with things in your past that aren't to do with your present. Technically, I mean, children are very much to do with my present. So,
yeah.
But yeah, it is. It's where do you get around telling people that? Where do you, do you leave it till so many dates in, or years down the line? And it's like, because that could make or break someone. It could be like somebody, but then it's always a question of if you get to know somebody really well and they like you, does it matter what you've done in the past? Because your past is your past, and people should be judged on who they are in the present, not who they were in the past. So yeah,
and I think sometimes stuff does have some relevance to who you are. So like with my situation, I got married very young. I think I was 18 when we got engaged, and I think we got married maybe a week after I turned 20. So I was like a wee nipper, like a baby, basically. And I feel like the fact that I got married very young, and it only lasted 3 years, which is about 2 years and 9 months longer than it should have lasted. The fact that I did that probably does tell you something about my personality, because I am an eternal optimist and somebody who jumps into something with both feet. If I think that something has potential, I'm like, cool, let's go full steam in this direction and hope it works out. Like my most recent relationship, I think I moved my stuff in after about 3.5 weeks. Like it was really cool. And we were together for 7 years, it clearly wasn't a total disaster. But I think I am a person who kind of chucks myself into things with some enthusiasm. But so it does tell you something about me, but it also doesn't. I'm a very different person in a lot of ways to who I was then. The context was very weird. Like there's a lot of complexities around it which don't tell you a lot about who I am too. So I think with my last partner, the one I moved in with quickly, I think I told him on our first date. But at the time, I'd only been divorced for maybe 4 years, something like that. And so it was more relevant. Whereas I think that, as you say, as time passes, it becomes less relevant. And maybe the time I would know somebody before I bring it up may extend. And I also think now, if you meet people in their 30s, you probably know that a fair whack of them are going to be married or have kids, right? Have been married, hopefully not actually be actively married.
Be actively married. I mean, you never know, do you? I mean, there's always plenty of fish with the guy with 3 kids that's married, Exactly. But yeah, with me, I mean, I was very much like you. I moved in quite quickly with my last relationship, and she had a little girl. I'd never dated anyone with children before. I didn't know what to expect, moved in quite quickly, and yeah, like I say, we ended up getting married, having a child. But it's when it came to leaving was very difficult because one, I wouldn't see my little boy every day like I used to, and two, I wouldn't see her every day. Now, I wish I did things a lot differently because the way that I did things then, I wish I could change, down to the fact that, I don't see her anymore just because of the situation that happened between that time. And yeah, I think this is something that a lot of people have got to think about. If they're single, they haven't got children, or if they have got children, the children are going to be involved in the relationship as well. And the children are going to be involved in the breakup. Yeah, it's not about you and one person. It's about you and everybody else in that situation.
Yeah, and that's a really interesting point, isn't it? About if, for example, hypothetically, I met somebody who had a child and it went well, and we moved in together, and I become whatever I am to that child. Mm-hmm. What the fuck happens if or when I break up with that person? That's something I've never really given much thought to before, because I am very much a cold turkey person. Like, when we're broken up, we are fucking broken up, and I don't want to see you, and I don't want to hear from you, and I will block the fuck out of you on social media so that you do not come up on my feed. And right now I have this very weird situation with my most recent ex, who is very much a let's stay friends, keep in touch person. Yep. Which we had agreed kind of provisionally when we broke up, because we still own a house together at this point. And there we go. There's some more baggage for you. I'm still my name is still on the mortgage of a house that I do not live in. So we agreed to stay in touch, and it was a very amicable breakup. It was completely mutual. But now he's like messaging me and he wants to go and visit my fucking family. And I'm like, yeah, this isn't really working for me, because I am like close the door.
That's it. Gone,
walk
done,
away,
done. Yeah.
And so I've only ever had that situation with people who I don't have kids with.
Yeah.
And like when I left my marriage, I literally packed a suitcase, picked up my peace lily under my arm, and fucking walked off down the road. Mm-hmm. Literally, like, it didn't take any. All of our wedding presents stayed with him. I just left completely empty-handed and rebuilt my life from scratch. I signed my name off the mortgage. Like, I didn't even take a penny out of the house, because I was like, I just want to fucking not ever speak to you again ever. Yeah. Sign away, Liz. Here's a. That doesn't matter, is it? Which, in retrospect, probably wasn't my finest life choice, but. That situation, that kind of very much black and white, it's finished, we're over, there's no
ties, no nothing like that.
That's not so straightforward. A, if you have a child with somebody, or B, if you have been somebody who's got close to a child who's actually theirs. But that's maybe even trickier, because you don't have the rights to see the child in the way that you have the rights to see the child that's yours.
No, and I feel that people have got to understand that people with children, they are bonded with their ex forever. The ex is their mother or father of their child, and they are bonded forever. And that's the thing. And people going and saying, oh, I don't like the fact that you got a child and you see your ex every other week. It's like, yeah, I go pick up my child, and me and her, we've got an amazing relationship now. We are amazing parents. So we talk to each other about my little boy, like his first day at school. I've said, do you know what, when is it? Because I want to walk together to take him there and stuff like that. So me and her have got a fantastic relationship as parents, and that's all it is, as parents. Like, there's nothing else there. And people have got to realize that when they come into the situation of somebody with a child, that 90% of the time that person is still going to be talking to their ex, because they're connected forever.
Have any of the girls that you've dated kind of expressed any jealousy and that kind of thing around your ex and the fact that you still see her out of necessity?
So one of the questions that I always get asked is, how is your relationship with your ex? And do you know what? I was always honest at the start, and it was probably the fault of me and the fault. It was equal fault, possibly. We were just trying to get up on one and try and better each other and go, oh, this, that, let's take a little dig. And that was at the start, and I was quite honest about it. And everybody always asks, and everybody seems to have a story about a crazy ex, whether kids have been involved or whether kids aren't involved. They've been in a situation where the person they're dating has been out with somebody who's the crazy ex, in inverted commas. Because I don't know, and that's why they ask the question. They feel the need. I need to know what I'm dealing with here, in case, you know.
Look, we also think it says a bit about you, about how you handle that situation, because I think I always, and maybe I've said this before, but I look for people who can speak respectfully about their exes.
Mm-hmm.
And if somebody's going to like mouth off about what a shithead their ex was and how they're crazy, that's a big turn off for me, because I'm like, okay, well, 100%. It takes two to tango. You're not really taking responsibility for whatever your part was. There's nothing to gain by painting that person in a negative light. So what is this for? Who is it for?
No, and I feel that, like I say, we've come a long way over the past 2 years, and do you know what? I won't have a bad word said about her anymore, because the thing is, we have grown and we have become amazing parents together. Like, it's to the point that I am looking at other opportunities so I can stay home more. So therefore, I can have him a lot more and be a bit more of a co-parent rather than that dad that sees the child every other weekend. And yeah, like I say, I feel that I have grown and we've both grown, and we see what's best for our child now, rather than there was no end of, like I say, bad mouthing going backwards and forwards at the start because of the situation, and obviously we've broken up. I ended the relationship, and I was obviously a lot further in the breakup stage than she was, because it came with a bit of a like, whoa kind of thing. So that's where we had difficulties. And like I say, if I could do things different and go back and do it again, I would, but hindsight's an amazing thing. And if everybody had it, it'd be, the world would be a better place, but unfortunately not.
The 2020 bin.
This segment is called the 2020 bin, basically the Modern Room 101. Each week we'll be asking our guest to chuck something they hate about dating in the 2020 bin and give us a reason why.
Okay, so here is the part of the show where we chuck something in the 2020 bin, never to be found again. Phil, you're up today. What is it you're chucking in the 2020 bin?
Right, I am chucking the word baggage. It annoys me so much. My child is not something that I put in the hold of a plane, okay? It's not something that I have to carry around with me or anything like that. Somebody said the other day, life experiences, which is such a better term. And people that put on their profiles, someone with no baggage. Let's put it this way. Everybody has life experiences. So everybody has got some form of life experiences. So you won't find anyone if that's the way you're looking. But that's what I'm putting in the bin. And
I could not agree more. I think baggage has such negative connotations. And also, for me, there's two things. There's your life circumstances, which obviously do affect the present because they affect how available you are and various things like that. Your time availability, your financial situation, that kind of thing. So your life circumstances for sure do dictate the present and maybe what you can offer in a relationship to an extent. However, there's also the element of emotional experience or emotional baggage. So you could have somebody who has very little quote unquote baggage in terms of circumstances. So they have no kids, they have no ex-husbands or whatever. They look like a very straightforward setup, but maybe they've got huge emotional trauma about something that's happened to them, or they're massively not at all over their ex, or they've lost their trust in the other sex completely, or the same sex completely. And so they have a large amount of emotional, what people might call baggage. But on paper, it looks like they don't have any quote unquote baggage. But you could also have somebody who's got, fucking 27 kids and whatever, who actually is emotionally quite straightforward or quite well adjusted, or doesn't have that kind of emotional background. And so what you see, like what some of these like credentials are in terms of their circumstances, is no real reflection of where they are mentally and emotionally, or how ready they are for a new relationship, or how in tune they are with their own kind of self-development and their own challenges and triggers and needs. I would much rather somebody who's had maybe been through a range of life experiences and has learned a lot about themselves as a person and can bring those learnings about themselves and about relationships to a new relationship. I'd much rather have that than have somebody who's like fresh out the box, if you know what I mean, but potentially has no life skills in terms of like negotiating a difficult situation, resolving a difference of opinion, repairing a relationship after a fallout. I would much rather somebody who's got some experience in those things than somebody who's like basically an intern where relationships are concerned. And in order to get the benefit of that experience, you have to put up with the fact that somebody's going to have had to get that experience somewhere.
Yeah, 100%. And I completely agree with you on that one, because, you'd much rather have, let's put an analogy on this, because I love my analogies and I haven't done one, I don't think, this series. So it's like getting somebody to pave your driveway. Yeah, you either get the guy that's never done it before and it turns out to be a shit job, or you get the guy that's been doing it for years, he's rough, weathered, everything like that, and he does it 20 minutes flat and it's perfect. So, it's all about your life experiences 100%. And who you take into that.
And when you said about the analogy, I was thinking, when I'm quite a senior manager in a company. When I'm recruiting, I'm not looking for people who are fresh out of school because I can mold and shape them into whatever. I'm looking for people who've got a decent amount of experience. They know what the reality of work life is like, and they're not going to, the third time their alarm goes off, they're not going to be like, oh shit, I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
But that only comes with having got some experience.
Exactly. So definitely the word baggage is going in the bin.
Yeah. We're replacing it with life experience.
Life experience. Yeah. So if you want to put on your profile, no life experience, that's fine. Let's see how far that gets you.
Back to the questions.
Can you answer this?
Now we're back to the real reason why you're all here, asking our guests the questions and getting the answers.
So, we received some questions from a lot of our Instagram followers regarding the difficulties and the problems that arise when dating whilst you have children. And one of them was, my matches don't want to wait till I'm kid-free. Now, for me, if they don't want to wait till you're kid-free, they don't understand your availability. They are not being flexible to you, and they are not the right person for you, because you have priorities. And while you have your children in your life, in your care, your children are your priorities, and it's not to say that the other person can't be a priority. If your children stay with the other parent or anything like that, then that person can be your priority, but your number one priority will always be your child or children.
And I think that is something that some people struggle with, is that they want to be number one in your priority, and they can't really make peace with the fact that they never will be. But also, my perspective on that is the only person who should be number one priority in my life is me. Like, my first and foremost responsibility is to make sure that I am fit and well and healthy and able to be a good person to those around me. And even if I was a parent, I think I would feel like that, because, you know, put on your own gas mask first, blah, blah. But the other person that you're dating should never be number one, whether you've got kids or not.
No, I get that point. Yeah.
Also, the availability point, I just want to come back to this as somebody who doesn't have kids. As I said earlier, I am a part-time dater. I don't want to see everybody all the time. And even though I don't have kids, if I say to somebody, if we're talking about arranging a date and it's Monday, and I say I'm free on Thursday, and they push it and go, oh, well, what else are you doing? Why can't, you know, can you not do tomorrow, Wednesday?
That's your business.
Fuck off.
Yep.
Like, for me, this is a boundary issue. And if I tell you when I'm available, that's when I'm fucking available, and I get to choose when I'm available, and I don't have to make myself available. Even if we've been in a relationship for 3 years, I don't have to make myself available to somebody if I don't want to. And the fact that somebody pushes back to try and negotiate tells me that they cannot respect your boundaries.
No, the door's that way, and we fire it.
And so whether you're saying, no, I can't until X day because you've got a child to look after, or whether you're saying, no, I can't until that day because you just don't fucking want to until that day, it's still valid, and they don't get to choose when you're free.
Yeah. Like I say, I've had a lot of conversations with single solo parents and people who co-parent this week. And another thing that came up, again, on what we were just talking about, is people wanting to be spontaneous. Now, single parents can't be spontaneous when they have their children. You know, you can't just ring them up and go, oh yeah, I'm free tonight at 8, when you know they have their children. So yet again, these people that are dating people with people with children need to think that, you know, you need to think long and hard before you do it, because it's not easy. I can tell you from being someone who is a parent and someone who has dated a parent. It is not easy, but it's worth it. Yeah. Because to me, I can't just jump if I've got Rory. If someone rings me up on a Saturday when I've got Rory and says, oh, do you want to do this? It's like, no, I've always got to check my schedule. One of my friends asked me whether I wanted to go climbing Snowdon. And I was like, oh, that's amazing. I was like, when are you thinking of doing it? And he says, oh, this weekend. I said, no, I've got Rory. You know, and that's the thing. It's, you can't be spontaneous. People have got to think long and hard when a child comes in, because you can't just jump for things unless you are available.
And also that's thing. So it's different with the invitation, like, for example, for your mate for climbing Snowdon. But do you know what I find is that most of the people who want quote unquote spontaneity is that the actual truth is they want to be able to fucking booty call you.
Yes.
So they don't want to bother making plans in advance. They don't want to have to think about it. They just want to, when the mood strikes them, send you a text and you drop whatever it is you had planned to do and go, yeah, fine, let's meet up. Or they're probably hoping that you actually hadn't even made any plans because you were sitting at home twiddling your thumbs waiting for them to text. And I have like a flat no fucking way rule with this. If you text me and say, do you want to meet up tonight? That is 100% a booty call text. The 100% answer is no, go fuck yourself. Like, I'm not playing. If you want to see me, you need to put in some effort and make some plans with me in advance, because do you know what? By the time you've texted me, I'm doing something else. I've got my own life. I've made plans, even if it's drinking wine in my pajamas, and I'm not going to drop what I'm doing to see you and call it spontaneity.
Yeah, it's the same as when you are a single parent. If you have the majority of time with your child, the time that you've got free, you'll probably make plans with friends if you haven't got plans with somebody else. So
or family,
getting your life relaxing, done. Just relaxing and calming. So another thing that I got asked is, there are so many negative associations with dating single mothers, but there doesn't seem to be the same negative association with dating single dads. Do you agree with the statement? And if so, why do you think that is? Now, I'll let you go first because I answered this. I gave my reasons and
Right. I think that it's to do with what the image conjures up So I think when you think of a single mum, you tend to think of somebody who is pretty haggard, run fairly ragged. There's probably an association that they're a bit young and maybe didn't make great life choices. And the image and the societal expectation is that it's somebody who's quite stressed and worn down and kind of run a bit ragged. The whole single dad thing seems to have like I don't know, I think some people almost see it as like a positive, that it like shows that he can be like caring and tender. And I know that for some women, and sometimes for me actually, it's a bit of a draw, because you're like, oh, like he can take care of a little person and he spends time with them and he goes to the zoo and and I just think that they just conjure up very different images and perceptions. And that men tend to get there's a strong risk of me going off on a rant here. I'm just gonna flag that before it happens.
Keep going. The
thing that happens seems to be that men get praised for the input they have, even if that input is, less than 50%, for often very valid reasons. But society is like, oh, like great, he's being a responsible father and taking some responsibility for that child. Whereas it's assumed that the woman will drop whatever she's doing and her whole life and career to be continually available to the kids. And I think I find that with for example, housework, is that men seem to, even if men do 50% or less than 50%, there tends to be this expectation that men is like, oh, fucking well done, here's a round of applause.
Where's my medal? Come on.
And for women, it's exactly. And for women, and you're expecting somebody to say thank you, even though it's your fucking dishes. Yeah. And for women, it's just kind of the expected thing. And I do think there's a little bit of that with parenting, where it's expected that a woman will take care of her offspring. And if a man continues to take care of his offspring after he's separated from the woman, everybody is like, oh, good job.
Yeah.
That's a run over.
I mean, with me, I'll go back to what I said before. In most, not all, mothers are seen to be the ones that have their children the most amount of time. So therefore, people are like, oh, they're not going to be available. Oh, they're not going to be able to do this. They're not going to be to do that. Whereas dads have their children less time, unless it's a 50-50 or the father is the solo parent. So that's where I think this negative association comes in, because everybody sees, oh, they've got kids, and it's like, they'll have no time. They won't have time. They won't be able to see me. They won't be able to give me what they want. Whereas a girl looking at a single father, like you say, it all of a sudden becomes, he's caring, he's loving, he can look after a child, and everything like that. And, I bet he doesn't have the child all that much, so there'll be plenty of time for me.
Yeah, 100%. And like my best friend in the whole world has got a very small child. He's about 18 months. And the arrangement with the father of the little boy is such that actually the father has him a reasonable amount. I think it's pretty much maybe 70-30, maybe 60-40, something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but she has a ton of time. Like, we spend loads of time together. She's been my support bubble during lockdown. She has a load of time. Yeah. I mean, she doesn't, because she also works really hard and does a lot of other things and is generally a busy and interesting woman. But it's not fair to say that because she happens to have a child and be a single female parent, that she has like no free time. And she's got plenty of love to give in the same way that a guy would have.
No, 100%. And I think that goes through it, is people being stereotypical, and society, again, it's always society on these episodes. And do you know what? Hate society and what they say.
So I like to tell you about something that is a pet peeve for me in relation to dating people who have kids. So, as I said, I am more than happy to date somebody who's got kids. I don't really have a particular preference one way or the other. What I cannot stand is when people use their children to try and be more appealing and or manipulate you. So I'm going to give you an example. I dated, if we can call it that, but we really can't, a while ago. I think we had 2 dates. This guy, and he he was like nice enough. It wasn't really going to go anywhere probably. But he was flaky as hell. Like, he was really terrible at staying in contact, which is why that we only had 2 dates, and he got in touch recently and was like, hey, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
Not just because of the date for you, just because I have like some standards basically.
Yeah.
But he would be really flaky, like go literally months without responding to a message. It was always me who had sent the last message, even though I was careful not to actually communicate that much with him. But he would like barely speak to me, and then randomly on fireworks night sent me a video of him doing a firework display with this little girl who's 3 and adorable, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
And like all this amazing stuff he'd done with her, and he did this like light party thing in the garden, and like he sent me these videos, and I was like, what is this for?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know your little girl.
Mm-mm.
We've met maybe twice at this point. Maybe it was even when we'd only met once. I was like, the only reason you can possibly be sending me this video, given that I have no vested interest in your actual child, is to demonstrate to me
that you're good. Yeah.
Like, here I am with my child rearing prowess. Please give me some fucking brownie points, and ignore the fact that I'm really flaky and inconsistent, and instead focus on the fact that I can do nice things for my child.
Mm-hmm.
Like that, like, don't use your child to try and pull women. It's gross.
No.
And like even things like I've been around somebody's house before who had kids, and there were like little person clothing on the radiator.
Yeah.
And I'm not broody at all. Like, I just do not have the fucking biological capacity to be broody. And even I was like, oh, that's a cute little tiny person t-shirt. How sweet. Don't fucking do that. Just get a grip. And I don't believe for a second that person genuinely needed to be drying that tiny, tiny t-shirt when I came over. I think it was entirely to do with hoping that my fucking ovaries would start like whirring, and that would involve sex.
Yeah, pretty much, I'm guessing. And yeah, I can see your point.
Just gross.
Nope.
Facts about dating.
This segment is called Facts About Dating, where we increase our knowledge slightly and learn a little fun fact about dating. We also ask the guest to find a fun fact.
Okay, so on to the facts about dating, but particularly today we're focusing on facts to do with parenting with young children, parenting with older children, dating with children. Hit me with the facts, Phil.
Mine is single parents, the number in 2019. They were 2.9 million lone parent families in the UK at the last count, i.e. 2019. As we've just had a census, we should be able to get the new statistics soon to see if that rises. And when we do, we'll have a look at that, obviously. But that went up 0.1 of a million since 2008. So, yeah.
Interesting. So my fact is that of all the households that are single parent households, 90% of them are with the woman as the primary caregiver, compared to 10% of households with the man as the primary caregiver. And there's also some really interesting trends around the ages of the children.
Yeah.
So when they're basically when the children are younger, it becomes more likely that the primary caregiver is the female, compared to when the single parent is the father. It tends to be either slightly older children or households where there's a mix of older and younger children.
Back to the questions.
Where am I? Who are you people?
This is the final instalment of guest questions, so sit back, relax, and find out what else we've got to ask.
back to the questions. Now, this question that we've asked people, so I could get a consensus of it all, was about when do you introduce your child to a new partner? Now, as I said earlier, mine was extremely quick. And do you know what? I will never ever do that again because, like I say, introducing somebody into your life and it's not right. So with me, what I've said with my child is it's 6 months before, minimum of 6 months. And nobody has met my child as of yet. And it'll be a while before anybody meets my child because to me, as soon as that meeting comes, it's like there's the bond there. It could be. And the fact is, if they meet the child, it's not going to break up straight away. It's going to see as it's progressing more and more. So whereas 6 months, I think that's a rough gauge, especially like I say, because I have him when I have him. So I have him every other weekend. I've still got loads of time without having him, where I can date, basically. So 6 months to me won't be a really long time because I am dating still with those 3 times. Well,
I've got a slightly different opinion, I think, on this, and I think this might be slightly controversial. But, okay, my question is, does the introduction of a person to a child always necessarily need to be child, this is my new boyfriend, girlfriend? And here's where my question comes. Would you introduce or create a circumstance where one of your mates would meet your child? Okay, so you have so you make a new friend, you have a friend, and at some point you're gonna do something which involves both your friend and your child, right? Maybe your friend's gonna come with you to the park, or you're gonna go to a cafe, whatever, and with your child. Okay. And so in that scenario, a friend meets the child, but there's no drama or expectation around that introduction. It's not like a formal introduction. It's just that the child and the friend happen to be kind of in the same place at the same time. I kind of think there is some potential benefit to, if you're starting dating, not straight away, obviously, but say you're dating somebody and it's going pretty well. I would not say this is somebody, if I'm dating somebody who's got kids or a child, I wouldn't be adverse to, like, a couple of us are going down to the park. Do you want to come along? And in a group setting, being in the same place as the person I'm dating and the child. And again, it's not a formal, like, Liz meet this 4-year-old meet Liz, she's my new girl. That's not what it is. But actually, I do think there is some potential benefit for the child having seen this person before and had them around a little bit. I think you have to be careful about how you interact and not be obviously like
exactly. There has to be some ground rules there.
But I think that potentially that could help because the child will have seen the person, the quote unquote introduction won't like be the first time they've ever met this basically total stranger. It enables the person, particularly if it's somebody like me who doesn't have kids. As I said, I've had a lot of exposure. I've been around children a lot because of all my nieces and nephews. And so I know that I like to be around children. I haven't got a problem being around kids. I know how to talk to kids, how to play with kids. It's fine. But if you have a child and you're dating somebody who doesn't have a child, if you get to the 6-month mark and they've never spent any time with that child, they could fully well think, oh, this is fine. And then maybe they 6 months in meet your child and think, fuck, I can't do this. I can't date this person with a child. But you're already 6 months into a relationship by then. You're pretty invested. And so actually, I do think there is some potential benefit in a very low key, low pressure situation, possibly with other people also around, to there being some overlapping of the child and the person you're dating, just to kind of test the water and just kind of see how it goes. And that way there's no pressure. If the kid doesn't see that person again, it's no biggie. It's almost as if you're just hanging out with a friend and the child.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And do you know what? I think a lot of it is based on the age of the child as well. Obviously, if you've got a older child, they're going to see straight through that straight away.
Potentially, but also maybe not if you've got other female friends that comes about.
Yeah, and yeah, I suppose no, I could probably get on that point. But okay, we're going to move on to another point now. So we're off the point of, obviously, I do think you make a very good point about that whole introducing as a friend with a group of friends around. That could possibly work, and that is probably a different way of looking at it. But yeah, like I say, there has to be some ground rules set. You can't be holding hands, hugging, kissing, everything like that on the first meet. It's got to be like you would be with your friends.
Right.
So the second question is, you're dating somebody and they've got children, you've got children. Now, I know, just imagination here. When do you introduce those two sets of children together?
Good question.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel with that like how I feel about the other thing. Like it's two different things to say, here is this child, this is going to be your new brother. Like that's quite a lot of pressure. But if you're somebody who arranges play dates with other kids, I don't know why it would be inappropriate to arrange a play date with those kids and just kind of see how it goes and if they get on. Kind of following the same ground rules that you, as far as the children are concerned, this is a completely just a friendship-based, no stress situation that is just like any other play date they have with any other kids, and you just kind of see how it goes.
Yeah.
If that's how I feel about it.
Yeah, I suppose definitely see that point. And always when introducing anybody new to your child, do it on a neutral ground, like the park or somewhere like that. Don't do it in
100%.
their house. Don't bring other children into their house if they've never met them before, or bring other people, because that is their territory. That is their zone. And why we're on that point is I had this conversation and I want to see your view on it. So have you ever heard of Sarah's Law?
No.
So Sarah's Law is put into place where you can check whether people are a risk to children.
Yeah.
Okay. And for me, I don't see anything wrong with that. I don't see anything wrong with, because all you need, you can go on a website, you can type in the name and you can find out about that person. Because for me, I want to know who's getting involved with my child, and who's in place with my child. And especially if it gets to the point of them being around more often when my child's there and spending time alone with my child. So, and I don't think a lot of people do this at all. I think a lot of people just go on like, oh, this seems like a nice guy or nice girl. I'm just going to let them into my house, let them into my world. Oh, I'm just going to nip to the shop. Can you look after my child for a second? Or stuff like that. And I think this is a big thing that needs to be said, that, listen, it's a simple check. It doesn't take that long. And do you know what? People that have no threat to your children at all won't mind you doing it. They'll be like, yeah, that's fine. I've got nothing to hide, So yeah, I mean, what's your opinions on that?
Yeah, I agree, to be honest. I think much as people have a right to privacy, and I do believe that people have a right to privacy, the primary concern needs to be in protecting young and vulnerable people and making sure they're not exposed to harm. That I'm no expert in it, but the statistics around child abuse essentially indicate that it's primarily somebody who is known to the child.
Someone's known as the child,
the perpetrator. It's very unusual to get grabbed by a stranger and kidnapped in a van. It's actually relatively and frighteningly common to be abused by your mum's new partner, your dad's new partner, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I think that the primary responsibility of a parent is always to keep the children safe. And if that means that somebody else's kind of privacy feels a bit compromised, and I agree, like I would have no problem with somebody checking my background because I have absolutely nothing to hide. I think on some level, I'm going to be honest, I do wish that there was some facility around this for non-child purposes. I would like to be able
They
to find
do.
out.
They have Clare's Law.
Tell
Clare's
me about
Law.
this. No, tell me about it.
Right. So Clare's Law is for domestic abuse, domestic violence, or anything like that. You can go on to, there's a website for it. You search the name, search the area, and it'll literally tell you whether that person has had any criminal records.
How did I not know this?
I have
How
no
have I
idea.
not been checking on my dates?
There we go. So
okay, wow, this is a truly educational day. That's actually genuinely really helpful, Phil, because you can't tell whether somebody is legit or not.
No.
Because people who abuse others are very skilled in manipulation and are very skilled in seeming like nice people. That's how they manage to abuse people.
Yeah.
And so actually the ability to kind of background check somebody does definitely add a layer of safety. And of course there are other things that you can do, like, as you say, meeting on neutral ground, being mindful about who you allow into your house and those kind of things. And let's not go off on a rant today about the amount of that activity that sits typically with women in trying to not get themselves attacked, compared with the amount of responsibility that is given to men to not attack women, please.
We can do this on another episode. We definitely are gonna go on that on another episode, because I do think it needs bringing up, especially in dating, and especially as things are opening up now. But
that's super helpful that you can actually do a check, both if you have children for that purpose, and also if you don't have children. In the episode last week with Lou, we talked about the episode where you could bump phones and it will tell you whether somebody's a jerk. But apparently there is at least a way of finding out if they've got a questionable history or any convictions.
To do with domestic violence or anything like that. So
I'll take that in the first instance.
Awesome.
Dating disasters. This segment of the show is called Dating Disasters, because let's face it, we've all had them. Each week we'll be asking our guests to share their worst dating disaster, and we'll be sharing a dating disaster we've either received or one of our own.
Okay, so today's a special day. Phil is going to share with us one of his own dating disasters. So Phil, take it away.
So it's not so much dating, it's before the dating. It was basically, I was talking to this woman and we were getting on really well. She knew that I had a child, and basically she turned around and says, I don't think this is going to work. And I was thinking, well, I haven't met for a date yet, but come on, why? And she says, because you've got a child. And I was like, okay, in what way? And she was like, because I like to be number one. And I was like, okay, well, I basically said, listen, I see him this amount of time per week. You got all this time. I was playing along with it because I want to see where it went. And then she turned around and says, no, I like to be number one all of the time. And I was like, okay, I'll tell you what, I will cut all contact with my child then. I won't ever see him again. I won't ever talk to him again. And we'll go that way. And she's like, oh, really? Would you do that for me? And I was like, no, goodbye, block. So, that's a nice and short one that relates to dating as a single parent. But
100%. And hilarious that you even continue to entertain that conversation. Like, there gets to a point, doesn't there? Like, if somebody says, I like to be number one, where you're like, okay, bye, don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Hey, I think it's like the investigative side of me that likes to see where it could actually go and to what point they...
Dig.
Yeah, what point? So, that's my dating disaster this week.
Final thoughts. This segment is called Final Thoughts. Basically, we take a look back at the episode and we each pick something that we'll take away from it or something that we have learned.
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Okay, my final thoughts for today are that everything is okay. And I will expand on what I mean by that. I.e., if you've got kids and you want to date, that is okay. If you've got kids and you want more kids and you want to date, that's okay. If you don't want kids, that is okay. If you do want kids, that is like, everything is okay. All life choices are completely valid. The only important thing is when you are looking for somebody who has a life that is roughly compatible with your own. And that's no different in the children not children thing to it is with somebody who's very sporty and athletic and they're really into fitness, getting together with somebody who really isn't into sports and fitness. Like, your lifestyles might not be compatible. Or if they are and you can make it work, you at least need to come to each other with a real sense of openness and curiosity and acceptance, rather than we're different and that's a problem for me. So I think all life choices are equally valid, but it's just a case of thinking, will this work for me? And even if you meet a person and their personality is exactly what you're looking for, maybe it won't work because of your circumstances. But likewise, just because somebody's got the right circumstances, just because you meet somebody who happens to have a child around the same age and you think, circumstantially this could work, doesn't mean they're going to be the right person. So I think it's important not to get overly invested in the circumstances alone and ignore what somebody's personality and character is like.
Do you know what? I completely agree with that. Because the thing is, I've spoken to people and they've been like, I'm only going to date other single parents because they know what it's like. It doesn't mean you're going to find the right single parent out there. It's about being open and everything's okay, like you say. So, do you know what? For this week, I'm going to take your final thoughts as well.
I think what you mean is, Liz, you are infinitely wise.
That's why I let you go first.
Always right. I'll take that. Good. Okay. So really enjoyed that conversation, Phil. I really appreciate your openness and honesty in talking about your experience of dating with kids. And I think it's a really important topic, and it's something that we do get a lot of questions and comments about on Instagram in particular. So for listeners, if you have something to add to the conversation, if you think there's something we've missed and you want to put in your 2 pence worth, or if you have a question that you'd like us to address on a future episode, then please do get in touch.
Yes, that is, Liz said it all. I don't need to say anymore. But yeah, thank you for coming on, like always, and discussing, because love it. And if one person can take something away from this, that's amazing. That's our job complete, That's all we're here for.
And I'd like to thank everyone for listening. If you'd like to get in touch, then you can do, whether that's to submit a dating disaster, ask a question, or ask for some advice. We're not that good at helping, but one of our guest experts will certainly be able to. So if you'd like to get in touch, head on over to our socials.
On Facebook and Instagram, it's @Unhinged and Bumbled Up.
On Twitter, it's @BumbledUp.
Or by email, it's unhinged.and.bumbledup@gmail.com.
If you liked the episode, then please don't forget to like and share, and click the follow button above.
See you all next week.